an unconstitutional hoax.
Aloha, and welcome to Trust and Verify, the show where we tell you all the time, don't listen to us, verify it for yourself. But before we get to this great show we got planned for you, I got to introduce my friend, my partner, my co-host, Boogie Bumper. Thanks for being here, everybody. We'll see you later. Good night. No, I'm just kidding. Boogie, how's it going, brother?
It's going good. It's going pretty good. It's going all right. Could be better. No, it's not going too well. Things aren't going too well. If we could open the kimono, just so... James and I are both very sleep deprived at the moment, and I appreciate everybody jumping in at this earlier hour. If I can just for a moment use this opportunity to announce, unfortunately, for the next couple of days, I'm not even going to be able to do a daily boogie just because of this scheduling thing that's happening here right now. So I should be back with my show on Wednesday, but apologies to everyone. There's more people that watch this than watch my shit, so I figure I'll cover everybody who watches my shit anyway if I announce it. But thanks for joining us. This is not the Daily Boogie. This is not Hawaiian Pizza Man driving around yelling into his windshield. This is Trust and Verify, James. And this could be an absolute fucking train wreck, what we've got lined up for you tonight.
Could be. I thought that was the theme of our show every week. I didn't realize there would be a difference.
A beautiful mess, a beautiful train wreck. Have you ever heard of a famous Australian artist named Pro Hart, James?
No, you said Australian.
Yeah, exactly. So he's famous for, he's dead now, but he was made famous for like throwing food and shit on the floor and like swimming around in it to make like huge works of art, like just spraying garbage around and turning it into art and shit. So that's what we're aiming for here tonight. We're going to throw a bit of garbage around and see if we can come up with a masterpiece. James, the first article I've got for you tonight, pure serendipity, the title, because I didn't even know what you were going to name this show, and I already had this in the tank. James, Dictator Trump. Trump asserts he can force U.S. companies to leave China. This is from the New York Times. There he is, looking very dictatorial there with the young men with guns standing behind him, and lovely Melania taking the focus off the fascism, James. President Trump asserted on Saturday that he has the authority to make good on his threat to force all American businesses to leave China, citing a national security law that has been used mainly to target terrorists, drug traffickers, and pariah states like Iran, Syria, and North Korea, James. As he arrived in France for the annual meeting of the Group of Seven Powers, Mr. Trump posted a message on Twitter citing the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977, a law. I'm glad. See, first of all, can you notice the difference in the name of laws from the 70s to the laws that they have now? You know what I mean? Like, once upon a time, we actually had laws that were named after the things that they are. The International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977. If this same law was created today, it would be called something like the Relief of Parity Pricing for the Empowerment of Third World Peoples Act. You know what I mean? It has some shitty name like that. A law originally meant to enable a president to isolate criminal regimes, not sever economic ties with a major trading partner over a tariff dispute. It's just a dispute. This is the president's tweet, James. For all the fake news reporters out there that don't have a clue as to what the relative to the presidential powers, China, etc., looking at the Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977, case closed, everybody. Case closed. The president's threat to all but cut off one of America's most important trading relationships amid a so far unsuccessful trade war that could disrupt a global economy. That's news to me. Hey, who's calling this? Who's calling this fight? You know what I mean? Like, what are we pointing to say that it's so far been unsuccessful? The fact that President Xi hasn't flown to Washington yet and begged for mercy? Is that what we're expecting to happen here? Is that how it wins?
I guess.
On the edge of recession, while further unsettling companies in the United States that rely on China in their production of everything from clothing to smartphones. Yes, James, your clothes are going to cost a little more. Your iPhone is going to cost more. God damn it. Your weekly iPhone bill is going to go through the roof because you need to buy one every week or two now as it is anyway. I love this. Listen to this. Mr. Trump has often made drastic threats as a negotiating ploy to extract concessions. That's true. To be fair to him, that's true. As when he vowed to close the border with Mexico or impose tariffs on its goods to compel action to halt illegal immigration. But listen to this. But if he were to follow through in this case, it would be the most significant break with China since President Richard M. Nixon's diplomatic opening to Beijing in the early 1970s. It's like now all of a sudden we love fucking Richard Nixon. He's the best guy on earth, just like that. Because haven't we been hearing for the last 2 years, like Trump is worse than Nixon? What Trump has been doing with Russia and the spying and all of that stuff, it's like literally Richard Nixon. And now Richard Nixon is the big hero who sent all the companies to China, who opened the doors to the East, James. What do you think about all this?
I love it, and I love the fact that the president was paying attention and watching my periscopes. No, I'm just kidding. Look, I literally said this, right? In fact, Karen Denver Knight posted. She's like, she nearly fell out of her chair because I was just talking about, the president does have this Emergency Powers Act, and then he comes out and tweets and says, check out the Emergency Powers Act, and that's exactly what's going on here. Is that, look, I explained this before about. Think about back in the 80s if we didn't have this law. This is why this law was written in 1977. It's exactly why. Because we were up against Russia. And Russia was going crazy, and it wasn't Russia back then. It was the USSR. And when Ronald Reagan came in, what if he wouldn't have been able to stop Russia from being able to corner the wheat market, for example? They would have never had to even fire a missile into our country. They could have literally just starved the people to death by cornering the markets. So this is, of course, what this tool has always been about. And the same thing is applying right now to China. I love how the fact that they had to sneak in that one little line about we're on the edge of recession. What?
Right.
Well, how the fuck are we on the edge of recession? Literally go look at all of the economic numbers. Because that's what would tell you whether or not we're on the edge of recession. And we just had the best quarter we've ever had. The lowest jobless claims, like in history, damn near. It was just in the last quarter. We've got everything going in the right direction. All of the economic numbers are on the rise, not the drop. And if you look at, someone in the chat just put it in there, actually, fentanyl China. You look at what's going on with China. They just seized 29,000 kilograms of fentanyl in Mexico, whose final destination was the USA. Okay, so remember how we always talk about China trans-shipping steel, trans-shipping things? Yep. They're trans-shipping fentanyl. And the funny thing is that Ladies of Liberty discussed this maybe a year ago with Director Mike, how they would do this, how the fentanyl, remember, what we talked about was precursor drugs. So it's not just the fentanyl. It's all forms of precursor drugs that make their way from China over to Mexico. Then that precursor is either offloaded in Mexico, gone to a lab where they create the drugs and then transship it into the United States, or they actually just direct ship, like what was going on here. They transship it from Mexico into like California, Oregon, Washington, and then they take those precursor drugs and mix the drugs in those states and then spread it across the United States. So this is no different than what they've been doing. And the president has the full authority to do exactly what he's doing. And anyone that doesn't think so is crazy.
The thing that gets me about when we talk about trade war and stuff, and I'm not really against tariffs at all. Like, I think when you're a sort of right of center economically, people think that you have to be pro 100% free market in order to be, a conservative or a libertarian, but that's not even necessarily true. Historically, back in the days, before there was even a United States, the conservative movement in the UK, from which, individual liberty and stuff springs to begin with, it was split in half hundreds and hundreds of years ago on this very topic of whether there should be free trade or whether there should be protectionism. So it's an open debate and it's an open question, and it's one of half dozen the other. The problem is they never mention in these articles the fact that he's basically going for parity here. It's not like he's bending the Chinese over a barrel and giving it to them raw. He's essentially saying, hey, like if you want to, we've got to be on some kind of level footing here. The great myth that's sold about free trade is it's putting everyone on a level playing field, but that's just objectively untrue. If you're dealing with a country where their corporations are owned by the government, controlled by the government, number one. But number two, they get super tax breaks for certain companies, and they get super low wages and super low energy costs thanks to the fact that they open a new coal-fired power station at least once a week. And in the West, we put more regulations on top of things. Now, some regulations are probably good, like in terms of worker protections and stuff. But I would personally say, like, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have a free trade agreement with any country that isn't at least very close to the situations that we have. The economic environment that we have in the United States. That's in terms of in the United States, Australia, Canada, UK, New Zealand, any sort of Western country with a certain level of worker protections and certain regulations and relatively close, local currency value, relatively close culture, that kind of thing, right? Because once you step outside that, it's no longer free trade, it's legislated predatory pricing. If you're giving an advantage to a country with, an 800 million people workforce that get paid pennies of the dollar. So the whole conversation has always been skewed. And just the very fact that he's trying to unskew it, even just slightly, is enough to get all of these commentariats, sort of flying off the handle and saying what an outrage it is. And he's a dictator. There could be something. Did you want to say something? I think I cut you off.
No, you're good. I forgot to talk about one other aspect to this whole thing that I've also talked about many times. And in fact, this weekend we've been highlighting the fact that we said, look, Japan is our friend. It's not an accident that Japan bought up all of our debt. And then today, what do we get? We get an announcement of another trade deal with Japan, and the president says, hey, China didn't want to buy all of our corn. And so guess what? Fuck you, Japan bought it. So now Japan's got that contract. And now what I've talked about before about the agricultural markets for the world is pretty much they're fairly stable. On the big picture look at it, basically every crop on the planet is already spoken for a year out. Everybody knows who's going to buy what, where it's going, and what's going on. So when you see stuff like this, where China says, well, fuck you, we're not going to buy your corn, and Japan says, okay, we'll take it, China just lost that avenue forever, right? Or they'll pay more to get it next time. So now China has to try to figure out where to buy their corn from, because they have to still fill that need. See, they think that they're acting like they were doing it as a favor to us, that they don't need the corn. Bullshit. They can't feed their people. That's why they have more agricultural imports than any other country, because the only thing they can grow on them fucked up steppes over there is rice. So, it's going to hurt their country way more than it's going to fuck us.
For all the talk of China being a superpower, I have a book somewhere in my collection, and it's a Chinese-American journalist who left China when he was young, and then went back sort of 20 years later after the economic boom started taking. And he took different notes at different times, like to say the difference. I think it's called Rise of the Red Dragon, but I could be mistaken. But it's a good book worth checking out if you get the chance. But for all the talk that China is this great economic powerhouse and a great economic success story, in some ways it is, when you're talking about the big urban centers, but in other ways, it's not. You still have almost 500 million people, James, in the north of the country who live without running water. So, there are many Chinas. There's the economic, high-tech powerhouse and the threat to capitalism in the United States, but there's also the third world, very poverty-stricken parts as well. And Xi has his own problems here. Because a little pressure going in the wrong way, like for one, let's put this on the table. You cannot trust a communist government when they talk about their own economic projections. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Yes, comrades, we have made 500,000 pairs of work boots, and production is going through the roof, and we are making so much money. We're killing it. We're so much better than all those capitalist swine that you've heard about. Growth is at 500% for this quarter. Oh, yes, well done, comrades. You know what I mean? It's all bullshit.
Wasn't Russia just about to dominate the world the week before the wall came down?
Yeah, exactly, right. every next week is going to be the biggest week that we've ever seen in terms of production and growth in the economy. So that's all garbage. But when it comes to Donald Trump, James, stepping out of line, acting like a bit of a dictator, there's one place that I go to get the real news, and that's The Guardian, because I know they're going to give it to us straight. James, Trump seems to think he's an emperor, but we are not entertained. There's a picture of Russell Crowe, for God knows why. Commodus was mad, and at least the way Russell Crowe told it, it took a gladiator to bring him down. America has the poles, James. On my word. Unleash hell. Hail the emperor cult. Ancient Rome is reborn on the Potomac. This week, Donald Trump ascribed to himself the roles of deity and chosen one, a first for an American president, but definitely not an emperor. Then on Friday, he ordered US companies to immediately start looking for an alternative to China. The president cited no authority for this directive. That's not true. Didn't we just read the Economic Empowerment of Third Worlders Act of no, it was actually a real one in 1977. It was a real act. Pardon me. How embarrassing. Trump thinks the law and he are one and the same, and that Article 2 of the Constitution is a limitless font of power. Congress and the courts be damned, James. To quote him, then I have Article 2, where I have the right to do whatever I want as president. Well, we already know he can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue. We established that during the campaign season. None of this should come as a surprise. From the moment Trump became president, he sought to graft upon the office a patina and degree of authority antithetical to America's foundational documents. When those were being written, Alexander Hamilton lost the battle over whether the president would serve for a lifetime. But who can forget the spectacle over crowd size less than 36 hours after Trump had placed his right hand on the Bible? Poor Sean Spicer, we hardly knew you. Then, this 4th of July, Trump figuratively parachuted into the middle of America's birthday party, putting himself front and center at the Lincoln Memorial in a scene reminiscent of Gladiator, Ridley Scott's Academy Award-winning tale of Commodus, a debauched and self-venerating emperor. Trump sought to hijack Independence Day and turn it into a taxpayer-subsidized celebration of self. But this is not just about visuals. It is about substance, too. Trump has teased that he might attempt to stay ensconced in the Oval Office beyond the legal duration of his term. These people are completely unhinged. Completely unhinged.
Yes.
I remember hearing a great line a couple of years ago, and I don't know who to credit it, but it was something along the lines of Donald Trump supporters take him seriously and not literally, and Donald Trump detractors take him literally but not seriously. It just boils it up perfectly. In May, echoing Jerry Falwell Jr.'s contention that the Mueller investigation was a corrupt, failed coup, Trump posted a now deleted tweet. Despite the tremendous success I have had as president, including perhaps the greatest economy and the most successful 2 years of any president in history, they have stolen 2 years of my presidency, collusion, delusion that we will never be able to get back. To think George Washington set a deliberate example of staying around for only 2 terms, and that was before the 22nd Amendment and official term limits. As Washington framed things in his farewell message, the spirit of encroachment tends to consolidate the powers of all the departments in one, and thus to create, whatever the form of government, a real despotism. And I just find it so funny that they're using that line to attack the guy who's been in politics literally for 3 years from the people who have literally been in politics for 30 years. You know what I mean? Like the people who have been ensconced there for 30 years, they're the good guys. The guy who's been there for 3, oh, he's evil. We need to kick him out. Yeah. The God Emperor, James, is he the chosen one? Is he the chosen one, James?
He is the chosen one, absolutely. I have to do this because this is really what we're talking about. For one, remember what we've talked about 100 times. right? If you say a lie long enough, it becomes the truth. So once again, throughout this article, they've laced it full of their bullshit lies. Like, for example, the 4th of July lie, where he was going to make it was all about Trump, when Trump didn't say a single thing about himself, and in fact gave us one of the funniest fucking moments of his presidency. And I'm about to share that with you right now. Here you go. Jefferson Airplane got their name in remembrance of the attack Thomas Jefferson led against the British-held airport at Boston, defeating the British. There you go. This is like one of the funniest fucking things that has ever happened, and we fucking love it. And it goes to illustrate the point later on where you said that, they take him literal and we don't. You know what I mean? We take him seriously, but we understand what's going on, and he talks like us. We don't, when we say things, right? Look, words are all about expressing ideas, and that's the hardest thing in the world to ever do, because you can never fully transfer an idea from one brain to another. It's impossible. Words is the best we have. That's why we have to use a lot of them when we're trying to express an idea. So when you have 5 seconds to make a point, you have to be a rhetorical genius in order to make that point real quickly with just one thing. And that's what makes people think. Like example, the revolutionary airports a century before the plane was invented. So it's freaking amazing. Like we get it, and the rest of these idiots just don't.
It never really bothered me the way he talks, because I always just assumed, well, number one, he's a very good salesman, but number two, he understands brand and messaging, right? And the brand is Donald Trump. I mean, if you need any evidence of this, just go to any fucking building that he's built. It's got his name on the front of it, not someone else's name, not some company name. He is the company. He is the brand. So of course he's going to talk himself up. There's also a bit of like New York swagger in his psychology too, I imagine. You know, the big swaggering, lumbering New Yorker with the big long coat walking around like, yeah, I can do whatever the hell I want. You know, there's always a bit of bombast and a bit of, what do they call it, braggadocio, right?
Yeah. Right.
So I don't find that offensive at all, but I think it's just convenient for people to, you know, take things out of context and manipulate it, because he gives so much. You know, he gives so many opportunities for people to take things out of context. But I really, you know, does anyone really think that he wants to be dictator for life? Because I think we have like half an hour worth of footage over the last 30 years where he's practically begging not to be president when people keep asking him to.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I didn't even want to do this. I didn't want to do this, but I had to in the end because everybody else kept fucking it up. Yep. So it's like, all right, well, I'm going to have a crack then. So makes total sense to me. James, though, perhaps we're being a little bit too forgiving, though. Have you considered the fact that we might be wrong?
No.
We might be wrong.
I'm never wrong.
Well,
I'm always right.
Well, I mean, he's commanding companies to come back from China, James. He's he's acting like a god emperor. He's calling himself the chosen one. Brian Stelter, ladies and gentlemen. This was on Brian Stelter's show, I think, today or yesterday?
Dr. Francis, I know you disagree with this view that Dr. Lee and a couple other dozen psychiatrists have published in this
book.
My
God, they put that bitch back on the air?
Dr. Bandy Lee. And,
my God.
I can't remember I think it was on this show where we dived into Bandy Lee, figuratively, of course. And I forget, was it the American Psychological Association or something, or one of those boards, psychiatry boards or whatever. Whoever the official one is, put it that way, whoever the officials are, they came out and said, well, she's not even a member of us. So, like, don't blame us. Like, she's rogue, man. She's doing her own thing. We have no control over this woman. So everything with a grain of salt, right?
To be talking this way, why?
Well, I think that medicalizing politics has three very dire consequences. The first is that it stigmatizes the mentally ill. I've known thousands of patients. Almost all of them have been well-behaved, well-mannered, good people. Trump is none of these.
I love it. calling Trump mentally ill is an insult to the mentally ill who are not as bad as Donald Trump.
Lumping the mentally ill with Trump is a terrible insult to the mentally ill, and they have enough problems and stigma as it is.
Look, can we just leave the mentally ill alone? They've got enough fucking problems to worry about, okay? This guy's a great doctor by the sounds of it.
The second issue is that calling Trump crazy hides the fact that we're crazy for having elected him.
Everybody's crazy now.
I got a mental image of Oprah. You're crazy, and you're crazy, and we got crazy for you, and crazy behind me, and crazy for everyone.
Oh. Holy cow. It went from we couldn't be so crazy to elect Donald Trump to we elected Donald Trump and he's crazy to we're crazy for electing Donald Trump.
And even...
but
I can't believe
that he just said the previous sentence, when we throw around like terms like mental illness and crazy, we're actually stigmatizing the mentally ill and we shouldn't do that, but we're all fucking nuts. Like, everybody's fucking crazy for electing this guy, but we shouldn't throw mental illness around, okay, guys? Got to be nice to the mentally ill. It's not fair.
Crazier for allowing his crazy policies to persist.
Let's keep using the word crazy.
Mentally ill. What? I thought we didn't... Doctor, with all due respect, I thought we were going out of our way to ensure that we weren't stigmatizing the mentally ill. And now he's like, well, we're all fucking crazy because we elected this guy. We're crazy for supporting his crazy policies that are making us crazy. Crazy.
I can't believe that CNN found somebody crazier than that Bandy bitch. Holy shit, this guy's even farther off his rocker.
He is doubling down.
Let me say about Dr. Bandy that
in this century.
Sorry, go ahead.
Let me say about Dr. Bandy that she's perfectly sane. Let me tell you what's really going on.
As Hitler, Stalin, and Mao were...
Whoa!
Because this guy knows crazy when he sees it. This guy knows that the president is crazy, even though you shouldn't call him crazy because that wouldn't be fair to crazy people. But we're all crazy for having elected this guy and putting up with his crazy policies. By the way, he's just as crazy as Mao and Stalin and Hitler.
As Hitler, Stalin, and Mao were in the last century, he may be responsible for many more million deaths than they were.
Whoa! I think combined, those three people, Hitler, Stalin, and Mao, might be responsible for about, 180 million deaths. It's something like that.
That's a conservative guess.
Yeah.
That's
a conservatives. Guess. Yeah.
Wow. So I guess he's only got, a little over a year. He better get to work.
I noticed
on this
how they quickly pulled down his title, too, because this was the head guy of the psychiatry department for Duke University. Duke! This guy.
Duke. Sounds like a fucking crazy kind of time happening out there at Duke, if I do say so myself.
He needs to be contained, but he needs to be contained by attacking his policies, not his person.
You just said he's going to be responsible for more deaths than Hitler, Mao, and Stalin, and then you say, but he needs to be contained because he's crazy, and I don't like using the term crazy, but he needs to be contained because he's crazy, and that's through attacking his policies, but not attacking his person. I'm sorry, James, can you point me to the Donald Trump, I'm going to wipe out 200 million people policy? Where the hell is that policy? Can I see that policy? He's not as good as Hitler, Mao, Stalin, though.
It's crazy for us to be destroying the climate our children will live in. It's crazy to be giving tax cuts to the rich that will add trillions of dollars to the debt our children will have
crazy
to pay. It's crazy to be destroying our democracy by claiming that the press and the courts are the enemy of the people. We have to face these policies, not Trump's person. Now, it's absolutely impossible. You can bet the house that the Congress, that Pence, that the cabinet...
former chair of psychiatry. Duke University. Former chair. You wouldn't be saying this shit if you still were, I don't think, Mr. Dr. Francis, with respect.
Will never, ever remove Trump on grounds of mental unfitness. That will never happen. Discussing the issue in psychological name-calling terms distracts us from getting out the vote.
You just put him alongside Mao and Stalin. Right?
5 minutes. 5 minutes. He's been throwing him under the bus of crazy. And now he's saying we can't do that. What?
I mean, we have to look at it as a policy discussion, okay? First of all, calling this guy crazy is really unfair to mentally unfit people, James. I mean, it's just not fair. It stigmatizes the mentally ill, and it's not right. But this crazy motherfucker, he's basically like Stalin. What are we gonna do?
You gotta love Brian Stelter's face. Brian Stelter's face there with his faux serious look, where he tries to look like I'm taking this guy seriously. I really am, I promise. It's like, literally, it's an exercise in trying to hold your face still so you don't bust out fucking laughing. That's what that is right there.
You know what it reminds me of? Like a classic bit on The Simpsons where, I can't remember the episode, but they have like this Poindexter-looking guy, guy with a big nose, glasses, and Ken Brockman turns to him and he says, sir, he's our expert, right? Would you say now is the opportune time for our audience to start breaking each other's heads open and feast on the goo inside? And he's like, yes, I would, Ken. Yes, I would. This is a perfect time to be doing that. Here's one for you, James. Well, maybe not for you. Dear fellow white people, here's what to do when you're called racist. This is just what we need. Another Washington Post opinion piece on how to not be a racist, James. Trump supporters say they're tired of being called racist. I don't know about that now. I think they actually welcome it now. Yeah. That would just be an observation. They're like, well, you're not going to stop calling them racist anyway, so what's the difference? At a recent rally in Cincinnati, The Atlantic reported white attendees defended themselves against the charge by citing the quote-unquote evidence. They had donated money to help black foster children. They deeply love their black and mixed race grandchildren. Shortly after rejecting the racist label, however, these same rally goers made racist remarks to the journalist who interviewed them regarding Rep Ilhan Omar, who came to the United States as a Somali refugee. A one woman offered, "I don't want her stinking Muslim crap in my country." So that's racism now.
Yes.
It's racism now, James. Yeah, see, because unless you like the particular people that we tell you are good, if you say anything bad against them and their beliefs, then you're racist. And it doesn't matter how many non-white friends you have. It doesn't matter how many non-white things you do or non-white people you mix with. If you don't like this one particular person in Minnesota, that's all we need. That's all the evidence we need, brother. Yep. Making racist remarks while claiming not to be racist seems paradoxical. President Trump himself is a case in point. "I am the least racist person there is anywhere in the world," he told reporters last month. He often name-checks black celebrity friends to support his contention. At the same time, he continues to take racist jabs at individuals and groups. Even white people who consider themselves good allies of people of color can be unaware of their racial biases. See, you're all racist and you don't even know it. That's how racist you are. From public figures to pundits to public intellectuals to politicians, it's a pervasive, bipartisan, international problem, James. The white Democratic governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, for example, distanced himself from a photo of a person in blackface in his 1984 medical school yearbook. So, did you see that? See that little manipulation there? He distanced himself from a photo of a person in his medical school yearbook by talking about how he practiced medicine. "I can tell you that I treat everyone the same way. Nobody has ever thought or accused me of being racist. And if and when I do practice again, I will continue in that same direction. Just after I kill all the babies, though. After we take that crying baby out of her mama's arms, and then a discussion will ensue, and we will keep the baby comfortable. Keep the baby comfortable until it's time to put that little sucker in the ground." Nobody has ever thought of accusing me of being racist. White actor Liam Neeson confessed decades ago after a friend reported she had been raped by a black man. He felt a primal urge to retaliate by harming black men in general. Responding to the backlash, he said, "I'm not racist. If she had an Irish or Scot or Brit or Lithuanian, I know I would have had the same effect." Yes, damn those fucking Lithuanians, am I right? Recognize step one, James. Recognize what matters most is just what happened just now. So don't worry about your black friends. Don't worry about your history. If you said something right this second, now you need to understand that you are indeed a racist, right? Step two, remember the broader context, James. Even if you know in your heart that you are not racist, remember, it is possible to have implicit racial biases. While studies show that we are aware of our explicit biases, some prejudices arise without thought in snap judgments, making them harder for us to detect. So if you say something, in a moment of passion, James, in a moment of anger, in a moment of outrage or frustration, that isn't a moment of frustration. That is just like the racial bias sort of seeping out of you slowly in an inopportune moment. Step three, James, stay calm and ask for clarification. Are you talking to moi? Are you saying moi is a racist? Take a deep breath and pause after being called a racist. So don't respond, first of all. This is what you need to know. You will probably feel attacked and defensive. Check those emotions and avoid argument. Avoid argument.
Just accept it. Accept your racial beating.
Exactly. Accept it and move on. You're not allowed to say anything. Really listen to the answers you receive. Listen to this. Swallow your pride. It's hard. Don't interrupt or justify yourself. You're not on trial. Your goal in this exchange is to listen and learn. Shut up, white person. Shut the hell up and listen to the charges before you. You have been charged with the crime of racism, sir, and you shall not speak unless spoken to. Number 5, James, express gratitude and get to work. So, thank you. Why, thank you for calling me a redneck racist son of a bitch. It's about time I learned. I tell you what, it's about time I learned to keep my emotions in check. You know, I didn't even know I was a racist before you came on the scene and alerted me to my prejudices and my biases. So I want to express my gratitude, my never-ending gratitude. Thank you for pointing out that I'm a racist piece of shit, James. Thank you so much, Mr. Black Man. What would I do without you, huh? James, you're a minority. How racist am I right now?
So racist. It is
racist.
so not racist. It's look, this is what tells you that they're trying to force this thing through a keyhole. Is that I'm going to give you the absolute best way that they could be attacking the entire narrative of the Muslims, and that's on racial nothing. It's on religious freedom basis. The proper angle to attack people that say fuck these Muslim motherfuckers coming over here is to actually attack the freedom of religion angle and to go after like what you can't you have the inability to accept the fact that they have a different religious opinion. What about the Druids? What about the witches? What about whatever? Right? That's the proper angle, and it would be more effective. And they know it. They're smart people on the other side. Don't forget, these motherfuckers have won presidential elections. They've won congressional seats, Senate races. They're in charge of the media. They're smart people on the other side that know how to manipulate you, and they've been doing it for half a century. So when you realize that they know that there's a better argument to be had, but they're still trying to force it through this one tiny keyhole, it tells you right there that it's a complete 100% manipulation, and they're just trying to drive the racist down your fucking throat.
It's funny, too, because I'm noticing this trend more and more recently over the last few weeks and the last month or so. And I remember in 2016, they really didn't go after the people until after the election. Like, they weren't saying that all Donald Trump supporters were racist in 2016. It might feel that way. And maybe a couple of people said it, but there definitely wasn't an across-the-board drive in that direction. They definitely said he's racist, Donald Trump. But they said, his supporters, they vote for different things and they've just been swept up in the emotion of it, blah, 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 and they're falling for empty promises, blah, blah, yada, yada, yada. But now they've just shifted it back onto the people again. So now it's like, well, okay, if you're going to, we gave you 2016, we let you go in 2016, but this time if you vote for him again, it's because you're a racist piece of shit. And by the way, when we tell you that you're racist, you're not allowed to say anything about it. You're not allowed to argue against it because clearly that would make you more racist, right? So I just wonder what part of this is driven, if at anything, like I'd love to get the internal polling right now.
Right.
Wouldn't you? I'd love to see how they're doing in certain congressional districts in regards to the African American vote and the Latino vote. Because I just don't think the Democrats are doing as well as the media would have us believe for some reason. You know what I mean? Otherwise, there's no need for this stuff, right?
That's right. That's right. No, you're totally right. I would love to take a look at those internals, but I know that the internals are good, and I said it. We said it actually before that, even the president and before Brad Parscale came out and said, "Yeah, we got internal polling. We're good. We're comfortable," because we could tell what was going on from exactly what you just said. If they had these great internals, they would be completely focused on those. That's how these people are. They're completely poll driven. They're completely data driven on that part. Because they want to know, how do I push more people? How do I get control of the narrative? How do I maintain? So they wouldn't be doing this crazy. They're on this crazy merry-go-round of racist. He's crazy. He's racist. The economy's going to go into recession. Like, they're trying to find something. And they're just going to keep revolving it. He's a sexist, he's a bigot, he's a homophobe, whatever. And they're going to keep doing it because they got nothing else. If they had a single policy that was advantageous to them, that's what they would be focused on. They don't have a single one. And we crush them every day they try to get one.
Yeah, and I think it's part of the broader push, like I was saying last week on Trust and Verify, James, and I was annoyed at myself that I didn't see it earlier. They want to shift the perception of Donald Trump from being like a loser, from being a clown, from being not a real president, to somebody who's dangerous.
Right.
So before, like, President Trump said racist things and it was kind of prejudice, but now not only is he dangerous, but his supporters are dangerous. You know, It's gone from sort of toothless, uneducated rednecks going to a rally to now a gathering of white nationalist terrorists. You know what I mean?
Right.
The whole dynamics of how Trump supporters are being portrayed in the press has shifted to, it's no longer a joke, guys. Now it's serious. People are dying. I mean, we just had the guy on there saying, don't call him crazy. He's not crazy, but he's definitely more dangerous than Stalin and Hitler and Mao put together.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think it's all part of the same thing. James, he's not the only one. Boris Johnson and Donald Trump are peak white male privilege. Is there no limit to what rich white guys can get away with? I always wonder when I see articles like this. It's written by Emily Peck, who I'm sure is a very lovely woman, but if the rich white guys really were in such control, would she be able to open her yapper on the internet, James?
Exactly.
Wouldn't some rich white guy slap the smarminess right out of her if we were really talking about a patriarchy? We've known for a long time that men, especially rich white men, James, which I'm proud to say I am not one of.
Right.
Not one of. Are held to different standards, so I guess I'm free to just make accusations now because I'm not a rich white guy. Are held to different standards than everyone else, but never has the difference been so nakedly clear. There are now 2 court jesters leading 2 of the world's major democracies. Well, that's wrong because America's not a democracy, and the UK isn't a democracy either. It's a constitutional monarchy. So wrong on both counts there, sweetie. Sorry about that. Boris Johnson, a known fabulist considering charming for running late and having messing hair, is now Prime Minister, James. In the US, President Donald Trump is a former reality TV star, accused sexual assaulter, a known scam artist. He sounds like a politician then.
Let me ask you a quick question. What the hell is a fabulist?
Oh, fabulous, darling. Fabulous, like over the top, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
He's an over-the-top guy. Could you imagine a woman or man of color getting away with any of that? Well, yeah, I can, really. I can, can't
right
you?
Here in this article. Right here.
Are you trying to tell me that there have been no fabulous black men? What are you, some kind of racist? Are you trying to tell me that a black guy or a Latino guy has never been accused of being a sexual assaulter, James? Please, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure they can get away with some shit like that. Female politicians can't make mistakes with their emails, DNA tests, or knowledge of world affairs or economics. But this is plainly false. She did get away with the email thing. She did get away with it. What the fuck are you talking about, Huffington Post? Like that's just gaslighting. Listen to it. Female politicians can't make mistakes with their emails, DNA tests, or knowledge of world affairs or economics. But she did get away. That's why everyone's pissed off.
Wait a minute. She just said with their DNA test, she's talking about Pocahontas.
Exactly. She got away with it too.
Exactly.
She got away with it too. They say it's a mistake. She's saying it's a mistake. What was the mistake? Saying that she was an American Indian or getting the DNA test? Can we clear that up?
No. None of that was the mistake. The mistake was releasing the results. That was the fucking mistake. Telling everybody that she was 1,024th Cherokee Indian. There's more Cherokee Indian DNA in a fucking cockroach than in her. And she's fucking bragging about it.
But what balls, though? What balls to say that? Oh, she can't get away with it. She did. She came out, she said she was an American Indian. It comes out that she's 1,024th. And what did the corporate press and all of Elizabeth Warren's fan club do? Oh, that's okay, Liz. We don't care. She proved she still got Indian in her. Of course she got away with it. If she didn't get away with it, she wouldn't be running. If Hillary Clinton didn't get away with the email scandal, she'd be in jail. She's not. Yes. She's still out. She's still out. What the hell if we didn't get away with it? But here we are, supposedly in an era of progress when it comes to gender and race, watching these buffoons land the highest offices in the world. It's just luck. It's just luck, James. We just pulled their names out of a hat. Basic gender theory explains a lot of this. I'm sure basic gender theory to some people explains everything that happens in the world. Men, particularly straight, white, wealthy ones, are expected to be competent in a male-dominated arena like politics or business. Even when they screw up, that expectation holds, said Dr. Stephanie K. Johnson, a management professor at the University of Colorado who specializes in the intersection between leadership and diversity. What a specialty. You're starting with this baseline assumption. See, they have a privilege when it comes to being in roles like such as the management professor of intersection and of leadership and diversity. The privilege that they have is they're able to say the most outlandishly nonsensical garbage and have people just agree with them. And if you don't agree with them, you're a sexist or a racist, right? So that's some privilege right there. You're starting with a baseline assumption that he knows what he's doing, so whatever he's doing must be thoughtful or strategic. Women, on the other hand, are expected to be warm but not particularly competent. Any strange behavior confirms that she was incompetent all along. Are these people also forgetting the fact that Boris Johnson just replaced Theresa May, the female Prime Minister of the UK? Like, are we all goldfish here? See, they had a female politician. They had a female Prime Minister before Boris Johnson. He didn't just land the job. The female got replaced because she was incompetent.
Oh, and let's put this out there real quick while you bring that little minor point up there, is that Theresa May was trying to make England pay the European Union 39 billion pounds. Let's just be clear. Boris Johnson just told him, no, I think you actually owe us money. Like, essentially, Boris Johnson just told the European Union to go get fucked. We're leaving. Brexit will be on October 31st, and we're not giving you a fucking cent. So, who are these people attacking? The two people in charge of major, independent, freedom-loving countries that are telling the rest of the globalists to go fuck themselves. Just to be clear, just putting it out there that maybe it's a hidden agenda by the matriarchy over the patriarchy.
Could be right. James, you know that the DNC and the people on the progressive left are very concerned with things like climate change, for example. You know, they want to make real change in the world, long-lasting, generational change. And, you know, God love them, they don't compromise. They don't rest on their laurels, and they certainly never back down from such a generational fight. Until today. DNC votes against holding a climate change debate. No debate. Not going to have a debate. Why would this be the case? I wonder why this is the case. Democratic National Committee delegates voted Saturday against allowing 2020 presidential candidates to take part in a debate focused solely on climate change. Why it matters. This is a defeat for the activists and the majority of Democratic presidential contenders who have lobbied in favor of a climate-centric policy gathering. Already 12 officials DNC-sanctioned debates have been announced, and CNN and MSNBC are scheduled to host presidential forums on climate change, though many argue that isn't enough. We should have 24 forums on climate change. We should have 50. I want 50 forums on climate change because I want 50 occasions. of the people from the Democrat side of the aisle standing there in front of TV cameras going further and further and further left, more and more and more and more radical in order to stand out from their comrades. Don't you think that would be a tremendously good idea?
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine why the DNC leadership voted against this. Can you? Can you think of any possible reason why the Democrat Party leadership, James, didn't want their candidates getting engaged in debates specifically about climate change and how much you might tax people and what kind of fossil fuels you want to ban and you know how much we're going to pay to the renewable energy sector? Why wouldn't they want that happening on TV, do you think? Could it have anything to do possibly with the fact that they hold around 70 seats by a very small margin in purple swinging districts where climate change policies and high taxation and banning fossil fuels, especially in places like, say, Pennsylvania, for example, it really gets on the nose? Remember how well Hillary Clinton went in those areas when she said we're going to ban all the coal mines? Do you remember the coal miners' unions coming out and saying we'll vote for Donald Trump then? Go to hell?
Yeah.
So I wonder why the DNC didn't want this to happen on television. I don't know.
Let me show you why they didn't want to have it on television, because of this visual right here. Yes, this is from the court case that the guy who faked the whole hockey stick graph that is the linchpin of the climate change idiots, he just got found to be in complete fraud, that it was completely faked, and that now he's responsible for all costs of everything. Like, they literally proved in court this guy faked it all. And this is the direct graph. There's Michael Mann's hockey stick bullshit, and here is the real deal right here. And you can see that, the Democrats have been lying to you. Say it ain't so, Joe!
Oh, dear. Dear, oh, dear. That is most troubling, James. I remember there was a lawsuit in the UK a while ago. I think even Chris Monkton had something to do with it, where they were showing Al Gore's, what's the name of that movie? A Pile of Bullshit? What's it called?
Well, I can't remember either. Yeah, it's
Inconvenient Truth.
Yeah, there you go. I like the inconsequential better.
Well, it was there was a court ruling in the UK, and before they showed this film, this entertainment film now to students in the UK, they actually have to put some inconvenient truth at the beginning of the film before they show it, which is all the disclaimers of all the scientific facts that they got wrong in the movie.
Absolutely.
So, chalk one up for science.
Yeah, and the whole Lord Monkton thing is he proved mathematically that the whole deal that they were basing all their climate change bullshit on, that they fucked up the math. Like, and he proved it. Look, you guys fucked up the math. Here it is. This is what we've been working on. And of course they still refuse to admit it, but they fucked up the math. I mean, you can find all this information out there. I mean, and you can check it and verify it for yourself. Again, we only talk trust and verify on the show, and everything we've got right here is verifiable fact. That graph is directly from the court case right there. So, you can find the fact that these guys are lying. And here's the best part, is people with an intelligence, people with an IQ over, 4, should be able to pretty much determine that the whole climate change argument is bullshit if you just listen to themselves. Let's just take everything that they said at face value. Their experts said that if they had their wet dream and we did absolutely everything they said, shut down all the coal-fired plants, stop driving cars, walk everywhere, no air conditioning, if we did everything that they said, we would affect the global temperature by 1/10 of 1 degree Celsius in 100 years. Now, if you have an IQ over 4, you should be able to just sniff out that bullshit right there. I mean, it's pretty simple to me.
Well, here's the thing, right? The climate is such a big and complex thing to study because it's not one thing. Like, people say climate scientists. There's no such thing as a climate scientist.
Right.
That does not exist. That school of research does not exist. To study the climate is a study of a multitude of things, right? It's like geology and, physics, it's chemistry, it's everything, right? It's the sun and how, what's happening in the sun, pollution, it's the whole lot. It's not just one thing. But the other thing is, if somebody was giving you, say, James, predictions, putting them on paper for the last 35 years and never once actually got one figure right, why the hell? You know how they say trust the scientists?
Right.
What the hell are you trusting at that point? Because the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, for the entirety of its existence, where they have put forecasts out and say the temperature will be this in X year, not once have they ever gotten it right. Not once. Like I reckon if you put me in that room, I would fluke at least one. You know what I mean?
Just luck out. Shit luck. Holy shit, I totally guessed and got that one right.
If I'm going to make 100 predictions over what the weather is going to be over the next 35 years, I reckon I put me down for at least 5. And that's just plucking numbers out of the air. Why not? I'll cover the spread. I'll get 5 right. They haven't got 1 right in that whole time. So it's trust the scientists, trust the scientists, trust the scientists. I do. I trust them to be wrong at this point every single time. Because that's exactly what they've done.
Yeah.
It's exactly what they've done. James, I think now it must be time to move on to you know what.
Oh shit!
I just put that on you.
Stop the hammering.
For this edition of the Hammering, James, I thought I'd get a guy who's smart and deserves respect. He's smart. And he deserves respect. Chris Cuomo, ladies and gentlemen. The hammering was not named after him, but it might be after this, because he probably is the kind of guy who would beat your fingers in with a hammer if he saw you taking money out of the casino till. So let's have a look, see what's happening with Fredo.
The president's mouth is a threat to this country.
Say what? The president's mouth is a threat to this country. Chris, I'll throw you down the fucking stairs, you punk bitch. Punks on the right call me Fredo. I'll fucking ruin your shit, man. I'll fucking ruin your shit. I'll throw you down these stairs, you fucking punk bitch. The president's mouth is a threat to this country. Well, you know, let's not talk about our mouths being threats to people, shall we? Maybe we should just keep that in the back for now.
Comparing the Fed chief to the ruler of China? A man who has eliminated term limits for his presidency. His country systematically oppresses millions of Muslims. He carries out detention and torture. TV and the internet are censored. Critics are arrested.
Oh my God!
And this
it sounds
president
like
is going to.
just. Let's replay that because I really want to replay that part right there. And here's why: if you actually listen to the words that Chris Cuomo just said, he literally just described the entire Democrat presidential platform. Censored internet. Fuck you on the term limits. We're going to take all your shit and you're going to fucking do what we say. Listen, he's going to describe literally the Democrat platform right here.
Comparing the Fed chief to the ruler of China? A man who has eliminated term limits for his presidency. His country systematically oppresses millions of Muslims. He carries out detention and torture. TV and the internet are censored.
TV and the internet are censored, James. TV and the internet are censored. By the way, we need to get these people deplatformed off the internet immediately because they're so dangerous, right?
Critics are arrested. And this president is going to so easily equate him with a guy who just won't raise rates enough.
This president, James, is such a punk bitch. He's such a punk bitch. I think I'm going to throw this president down the fucking stairs. I think I'm going to ruin his shit.
A public servant in the United...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think it's hilarious that Chris Cuomo is going to say that he's going to compare him to a dictator. Chris, I dare you to go to China and say the exact same thing you just said about Xi. Not even talking about that you're trying to throw Trump under the bus. I dare you to go to China and say that. Just go. Just try it one day. Just once.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't worry about throwing people under the bus. If you say that shit about President Xi, you'll be thrown into the back of a black unmarked van on the street of Beijing and never to be seen again. Never to be seen again. And your Italian-American organs might find their way halfway around the world after that at some point.
Yeah.
The States? The sick part is why he's doing this.
Although the steroid use might have rendered some of them useless at this point.
Oh, that's a perfect pause. That was a perfect pause. You had him looking completely doped out of his mind. I hope so. Yeah, look.
Looks like he's getting his shit ruined.
It's just because both these men represent what he doesn't want.
What's that?
They won't do what he wants.
Oh. Both of these men represent what he doesn't want. They both don't do what he wants. Are you following at home? Are you taking notes?
He literally doesn't care
Literally.
that one is an oppressive autocrat because he consistently is not bothered by despots and can't stop talking like one.
I can't. Wait, are we liking China? Are we hating China? What's going on here?
Which way are we going? Where are we at right now? But here's the funny thing. Not only did CNN probably, 5 seconds before Chris said this, say, oh, Donald Trump should quit beating up our friend China, to now he's a desperate autocrat, right? So the duality of brain fuck right there is just crazy. But let's just go back to the fact that literally using the term right there, that one is basically an autocrat. What do you think the Fed chairman is when he's on the news saying, we don't answer to anyone, politics don't matter, and nobody's my boss? I'm sorry, that sounds like an autocrat to me. I don't know. Call me crazy.
He's a free and independent freedom fighter, James. He's a freedom fighter. He's a patriot. He's a fucking patriot. President Xi is a patriot as well.
Yes.
Himself. Now, I get why just his running his mouth this way might be excused by some of you because you got low expectations of politics.
And the media. And the media, Chris. Don't leave yourself out of this. We pretty much have low expectations of everyone at this point.
And you'll say, I just look at what he does. That's all I care. I don't like his style, but here's my argument. His foul mouth is just the stench of a real wound.
His foul mouth. Again, the balls on this guy. The last thing you should be attacking anybody for at this point, Fredo, is foul-mouthedness.
I'll throw you down the fucking stairs. I'll wreck your shit. What?
You fucking punk bitch. Huh? You fucking punk bitch. I'll ruin your shit, you punk bitch.
So he announces more tariffs on top of China's tariffs. See, that's more pain for the American consumer. And it is not better leverage for him to get this deal done. I know they're telling you that. Ask him for proof. It's definitely more pain for your 401k because the Dow's...
Your 401k is going to suffer, James.
What?
You know that?
My 401k has doubled since he won the election, so I'm fucking happy with that. I don't give a fuck. We got. You
can take a little hit.
I can take a little hit.
I can
take a little bit here.
Going to tank because the street doesn't like it. Down more than 600 points.
Oh, the poor street
today.
Oh,
today.
Wait. CNN now. They're the freedom fighters fighting for you, the middle class. They're fighting for you, the middle class, and now they want you, the middle class that they have spent a year or 2 or 20 telling you Wall Street has been fucking you in the ass, now wants you to feel sorry because the street don't like it. Fuck it. What the hell, dude? The brain fuck of these people is absolutely insane.
Remember, Donald Trump is apparently the guy who's in there to make rich people richer, right? He's the guy who's in there because Wall Street loves him, even though Wall Street backed Hillary Clinton. They didn't back Donald Trump. They backed Hillary Clinton. But the narrative that they've been running with is, hey, Donald Trump's doing shit for Wall Street to make the Wall Street, the big end of town, the big bankers rich. And so they put up on their show, hey, Wall Street's down. Who's thinking about the bankers? What about the poor fucking bankers over here? Hey, when is Donald Trump going to start looking after Wall Street? I mean, he's so concerned with these fights. He's so racist and so concerned with this fight about President Xi because he's such a racist. He doesn't even care that Wall Street's tanking right now.
Oh my God!
So won't somebody please think of the street, James? Think of the street.
Think of the street.
I love the fact too that, and I agreed with them. When Donald Trump came out and would tout like high numbers on Wall Street, right? After like a particular, if Wall Street has a very good trading day, he'd come out and say, hey, Wall Street's up 1,000 points. Look at how good I am. And they would say, this is wrong to take one day on Wall Street as any indicator of like long-term success. And I would say, well, they're actually correct on that. But now, because it suits them, Wall Street was down 600 points today, and this indicates Donald Trump's long-term failure. They just flip. They just completely flip. Once upon a time, Donald Trump was doing everything for Wall Street, and you can't point to one good day on Wall Street as a side of economic success. Now he hates Wall Street. Wall Street's tanking after one day, and that proves that it's a long-term failure. Figure it out.
This episode right here is proof that cognitive dissonance is fucking real. Like, I mean, just if you just watch him, just in this one clip, you can see him say the complete opposite of positions he just said. Like, even inside this single clip, it's freaking amazing. And I love how he went to the part of, hey, you're guilty, motherfucker, prove you're innocent. Like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like, no. Innocent. Like, you have to prove that Trump's wrong. The fucking economy is proving Trump's right. Jesus, these people.
I just wish that he had come out and said, today Wall Street was down like a punk bitch being thrown downstairs. You know what I mean?
Strong move. Why don't they like it? Why don't the farmers like it? Why don't the manufacturers like it?
Farmers love it.
What manufacturers?
What ones in China?
The ones in China. The ones in China, Chris. I'm sure they don't fucking like it.
He doesn't just run his mouth about a fake brown menace. He pushes to put kids.
What?
Whoa. What?
So wait, we're back to the immigration thing being fake again? It's a fake crisis again? Now I'm seriously about to jump out of a window. The immigration crisis was fake. Okay, the immigration crisis was fake. Then it was real. Now it's fake again. Now we've decided fake brown crisis, James. It's a fake thing. It's not real. It's not really happening.
And we're not even gonna call it immigration anymore. We're gonna just call it a brown crisis. What the fuck is that? Fucking racist motherfucker. Chris Fredo Cuomo, the racist. It's a fucking brown crisis. We got a crisis of brown. What the fuck is he talking about?
Hey, don't look at me, all right? I'm a good guy here. I'm a New York Italian guy, and I'll fucking throw your punk bitch down the stairs. I'll ruin your shit. Not to mention this fucking brown crisis coming over the border. You hear what I'm saying? You understanding me, son? Huh? Punk bitch on the right?
In cages to round up migrants working illegally, but not their employers, like him, even though the employer...
Like him?
Whoa. All right, look, this is something...
Wait. I have to back up Chris Cuomo here. He's absolutely telling the truth. When a guy was hired named Manuel to scrub pots in one of Donald Trump's hotel kitchens, I'm sure Donald Trump conducted the interview himself.
That's right.
That's right. Okay, who's this? Manny? Hi, Manny. Do you speak any English, sir? Pablo Inglés? You got Inglés? No? Okay. I tell you what, why don't you get a hold of that big pot over there and show me your form? It looks like he's got tremendous form, Melania. It looks like he really gets he gets into his work. You know what, Manny? You're hired. Congratulations. You got the job. Well done. Okay, can we bring in the toilet cleaner and the sweeper next? And the mop guy. And then I got to catch a private jet to France. I got to catch a private jet to Moscow in an hour. So if we could get these people through quickly... we've got the toilet cleaner coming up next, and then the mop guy. Okay, great. Yeah,
I'm going to point something out to everybody that watches this show, and I haven't talked about this really anywhere else. I have slightly, but not in this particular manner. These guys are actually highlighting how the entire illegal alien hiring crisis, like he just spoke about, is a direct result of Congress failing to do their job. It really is. And let me tell you what the truth is here. A lot of people are mad that the guy that ran the company or the company itself isn't suffering because they hired 530 illegal aliens. But let me tell you what the actual catch in the law is. And I know this from lots of experience hiring people. The catch is that there is no law or process in place that teaches human resources how to be document experts. So if the person literally brings in a social security card on a typewriter to type in their social security number, there's no legal liability to that company because they presented a document and they're not document experts, which highlights why we need to have a mandatory e-verify in this country, because you can't set up a training program to become document experts, because then you're open to all these frivolous lawsuits from people suing companies because they didn't hire me, which was violating the Equal Employment Opportunities laws. See, it's a big-ass catch-22 that your government has put you in. So this is why E-Verify is a mandatory must that we must scream about. It is the only way that we could solve what they have fucked up at this point, because anything else is almost impossible to achieve.
Don't forget though, like, I don't think anybody's against say business owners who hire illegal immigrants and like underpay them and shit like that. Those people like should answer for what they've done as well. Like, nobody's saying they shouldn't.
What? Right.
But here's the other thing. Don't forget though, we want to ban ICE. We want to close ICE down. They don't even want ICE enforcing the law as it is now. So what the hell are you bitching about, right? Oh, he's rounding up illegal immigrants, but not the people hiring them. Well, who should be rounding up? What, the ICE guys that you don't want to exist? What the hell are you talking about? Who's going to be doing this enforcement of immigration law after you get rid of ICE, James? What the hell's going on?
Break the law just as much as people who enter illegally, just as he broke the law at his clubs and still does.
All right.
He wants to remove a constitutional protection of birthright citizenship. How's that preserving the Constitution? He wants to end the promise of taking the tired and poor. His people literally say to your face.
I'm sorry, where is the tired and poor written into the Constitution? Can you point that out to me? Because I thought that was just a line written on the bottom of a present that France gave you.
Yeah.
Like, isn't it really what it is? Like, I get the mantra, I get it, but we're talking about the French here, and they've been accepting the world's tired and poor for the last 30 years, and some might say it's not really working out the best for them. Just quietly. Well. Just quietly speaking.
That poem, The New Colossus on the Statue of Liberty, it's just words.
Just words.
Not policy.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
It literally is.
Quite literally.
I don't know what we're arguing here.
Since when did policy come from a statue poem? I'm not sure. If that was the case, maybe we should go revisit the whole Confederate statue thing down there in the South. Because if policy comes from the statues, holy shit, y'all got some explaining to do.
Robert E. Lee, ladies and gentlemen, he's now going to be in charge of immigration policy. But I love the fact that some things in history just need to be untouched and carry on forever. But other things in history, like, say, amendments, well, they're just words on a piece of paper.
Just words.
We can change that. Words on a piece of paper, like, the foundational documents of the American Republic, they're just words. They're old words written by old white guys and slave owners. And, we can change them, no problem. But, hey, some words etched into a statue by some Frenchmen, that must stay. We've got to keep that shit going well into the future.
Thank God the generations that built this country, those that came freely, didn't know that. They weren't told that, or else a lot of us wouldn't be here.
There you go, James. There you have it. Punk bitch, throwing punk bitches down the stairs like he does on his show, James. Let's get after it with Chris Cuomo. So he's throwing punk bitches down the stairs. Punk bitches on the right call him Fredo, but that's not fair. Remember, it's wrong to point to Wall Street having one successful day and say it's an indicator of long-term success. You can point to Wall Street having one day slightly down, though, and say that it's an indicator of long-term failure. Ladies and gentlemen, the never-ending, mind-boggling shit of Chris Fredo Cuomo. There's your hammering.
Stop the hammering.
Folks, normally this is the time where I say that's all that we got for you, but we actually got one more thing for you real quick.
Oh.
Aloha, Mr. President. Thanks for watching Trust and Verify. We appreciate you being here today. The president literally right now just tweeted, "My stock market gains must be judged from the day after the election, November 9th, 2016, where the market went up big time after the win, and because of the win, had my opponent won, crash!" So we literally just talked about how my 401k's doubled, we got room to work, and the president is there tweeting about it. So thanks for everybody being here. We love you guys. We will see you next week. If you want to follow him, you can follow him at Boogie Bumper. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Real Person.
Just one thing, James.
Go ahead.
Just one thing before we go. I've been reliably informed in the chat that it wasn't a Frenchman who etched the poem onto the Statue of Liberty. It was an American. Facts matter. You are right. Facts matter. I stand corrected. But then just another example of Americans taking somebody else's fucking job, right? Good job, America. Good job. Well done.
Holy shit, that's so fucking funny. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Real Person PLTCS. And if you want to follow us, you can follow us at TAV Show. And you can find all our former episodes on TAVshow.com. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week. Aloha.
Do you remember when big tech called themselves the free speech platform and used slogans like "Don't be evil"? Fast forward a decade, and suddenly those platforms we loved for years have changed.